Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you might be in the world. I've got started very early today. Oh, just in case you're new to the channel, I'm Anah Parreli, and of course, I make the content here. Lorena's Labyrinth is my business. Anyway, here today in Western Australia, it is 8:03 in the morning. We are expecting it to get to high temperatures today. So, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, I would imagine you're experiencing some coldness. We are not. It's definitely going to be a warm day. So I'm going to try and get cracking earlier sooner than later. Now, for the record or for your information, Rose Quartz is just the most beautiful, gentle crystal when it comes to enhancing our sense of self and opening to this giving and receiving of love. And this is what we're going to be talking about today with this video. So without further ado, I'll just say thank you very much for being part of my journey. I will try and keep this video brief and just say, yes, if you are a returning visitor, once again, as always, I thank you. I genuinely appreciate your part of my life. If you're new to the channel, I welcome you and I encourage you to subscribe. And of course, there's no obligation with that, which you will know. You don't have to subscribe. I would appreciate actually if you leave a comment or put likes up, or just even add your own experiences and feelings of some of the content that I provide, whether or not it resonates with you. Now, just to be clear too, a practice that I have adopted on the channel is that I put chapter timings in the description so that you can come back and forth to the video at your leisure, because time is always important to people, and you can find the content that you're actually interested in. So you might want to, for example, jump past my morning waffle or when I'm introducing and go straight into the actual bits that might be important to you. So if you're looking for the emotional benefits of Rose Quartz, you can jump straight to there. If you want to know what chakra it's aligned to, you can jump straight to there. So it's all about making things easier for you. There was something else I was going to add to that. Oh, I can't remember now. It's come in and it's jumped out. So anyway, let's just get on with it then, and we'll make as quick progress as we can. So the first thing I guess to talk about with Rose Quartz is obviously it's pink. Most of the time it's pink. Every now and again you might see it where it's got a little bit of a lavender hue to it. And in those instances it is called lavender quartz or rose lavender quartz, whatever. But I mean, here we're looking at a couple of spheres, and you can hold these in your hand, whatever. I'll talk about the uses and that kind of thing later on. And I'll also talk about the depth. Actually, do you know what? I'm just going to say here is a couple of beautiful rose quartz spheres, and it will come in different shades of pink. You're going to see this throughout the video. So before we get into the detail of Rose Quartz, though, I'll just make mention of the associations with the Zodiac for Rose Quartz. Now, as always, I say, look, it might be affiliated or recommended with to people with these star signs, but that doesn't mean to say if you're not a star sign of, the Pisces, the Taurus, or the Cancer, that you can't use Rose Quartz, because anybody can benefit from the crystals. And in fact, I do recommend Rose Quartz for everybody. It's got a very gentle energy though, so some people may find it's too soft, but I would look, in my experience, sometimes we need a soft and gentle energy, and other times we need a stronger type energy from a crystal. Well, Rose Quartz is a very soft and gentle one. And, of course, when it comes to Pisces, Taurus and Cancer, they are actually quite emotionally sensitive people, which is probably why the pink or Rose Quartz resonates with them and is recommended to them, because it's got this gentle, comforting, nurturing aspect to it, which they as star signs would actually really appreciate. But it's, as I say, it's beneficial to anybody regardless of where you find yourself on the zodiac. So as a summary or overview of the benefits of Rose Quartz, basically it's called the Stone of Love because it is a stone of love, and you'll understand this more when we get into it and discuss it a little bit more when we go down to the spiritual metaphysical attributes. Okay, it is dedicated specifically to this self-love and self-acceptance, and it paves the way to receiving divine love, this divine and unconditional love. And part of its healing properties is where it builds this self-confidence, self-acceptance, and it supports self-forgiveness and the release of guilt, because often people are their worst judge. You know what I mean? They might actually be able to look at somebody else who has done the same as them or reacts badly to situations, and they can look at those people with compassion and say, well, yes, that wasn't right, but at the end of the day, they've had a rough trot or X and Y. So they can make excuses and justify for other people and have empathy towards them. But when it comes to themselves, they are far more critical, far more harsh, and far more judgmental. It could be like just beating themselves up for the things that they've done instead of extending empathy and compassion to themselves. And this is what Rose Quartz does. It doesn't accept poor treatment, shall we say. It doesn't make excuses and allow for unloving and unkind behaviour, but what it does is it provides this awareness and understanding that we are human and we make mistakes, and that we're all souls in progress, growing each day towards the expansion of our soul, the expansion of our humanity, and the expansion of who we are. Rome wasn't built in the day, and this is that saying, of course, and this is the same with us as individuals. We are all growing all the time, and it is human to make errors. And so therefore, Rose Quartz really teaches us this at a core and heart level. If we've forgotten, it's okay to make mistakes, and the idea is that you just keep striving to become more expanded, shall we say, and to bring more light and love into our aura. And I think actually, in fact, it gives permission to call for help, because a lot of the time people are exceptional givers. They can give love very easily. They can offer assistance to people. If anybody needs something, they're like a little rocket. But when other people turn around and say to them, can I help you? They will turn around and say, no, that's fine, thank you, I'm okay. Well, that becomes a block and a barrier. So Rose Quartz teaches us, I guess, that it's okay to accept help, and it's okay to ask for it, actually, especially to ask for help. And that can be divine help. So the wonderful thing about Rose Quartz is it's actually not particularly rare. It's fairly common to find. So it's not super expensive. Most people can afford to have a little bit as part of their crystal collection. And this particular photograph here, obviously I've written the source of where I got it online, is a really good example of how you can get this beautiful colour. And there is some transparency or some translucency, if I can speak, translucency with it. With this particular crystal, you can hold it up and see the light coming through it. But not all rose quartz you can do that with. Okay, some rose quartz is actually quite dense. But oh my goodness me, it is still beautiful. I've got a selection of rose quartz here because I actually like crystals that are in the rough. I do like the polished if I'm going to wear it as jewellery, of course, but when it comes to my crystal collection, I like to have a range, and I'm very much into colour shades. So you can find a whole range yourself if you were actually to go looking for it. Now, I guess it's important here to turn around and say, look, they are part of the quartz family, so they have actually quite some hardiness to them. You can see here on the scale it's a 7, so that means it can actually tolerate quite a few things. That's probably a poor choice of words, actually. It doesn't tend to break and shatter as easily as some other crystals, would be how I define it. But depending on the type of rose quartz you've got, if you've got it carved and that kind of thing, you're going to actually obviously have to look after it a little bit better. But we will also talk about uses later in the video. So basically it forms in pegmatite and igneous rocks, and I'll leave you to do your Googling on what that actually means. What else can I say about it? Just that, look, because it's found all over the place, the primary places, from what I know, Brazil has probably got some of the deeper pink. Madagascar, I have seen some amazing pink or rose quartz from Madagascar. The thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I actually thought all the supplies in Madagascar had been mined out, but that may not be correct. But yes, it can be found in USA, South Africa, India, and other places. And I'm very much aware that we also have some here in Australia. But I must admit, the local rose quartz that I've seen, and I've actually only seen it in, say, boulder size, maybe a foot by a foot, a ruler's length, big lumps of rose quartz, and it tends to have a little bit of reddish, perhaps on the surfaces, sometimes running through it a little bit. It's got some streaks to it. This is the ones that I've seen, though, and that's just about where it's been sourced from, because, of course, when you get these kind of discolorations, it's about the surrounding rocks as well and the mineral content of the earth in where the rose quartz has been formed. But yeah, let me know about the rose quartz local to you, and your information, certainly where it can be found, because I'm sure that there are people who will watch this and be interested. And the bottom line is, I actually think from the point of view of buying at the moment, it's probably better if you can buy a crystal to buy from home, because at least you can see it, generally, you'd like to think. And the other thing is, it saves a fortune on postage. So when it comes to buying, like I said, it's fairly common. It's not super expensive to actually buy, certainly if you're buying it as that ore type product. The image that you see on the left, it seems to me that a lot of people that mine the rose quartz, they will go into chopping it up. So this is what we're looking at in that bottom left image, is where they've actually got a big chunk of it, and they have special what are they called? Wheels that turn around like circular saws or whatever, but they're made for stones. And they seem to carve them up like that. And this is what we've got in that bottom left image, which, it's not all carved, but it will have flat sides on it. And they are generally made of a size where you can actually hold them in your hand more comfortably. On other occasions, of course, you see them like these tumbled stones on the right-hand side. Now, I've got to be honest, based on the tumbled image, I'm actually not sure if they're synthetic, because I would imagine you can make synthetic rose quartz. I actually haven't Googled that, because, look, I have seen some translucent tumbled rose quartz, but generally my understanding, and I'm open to correction here, is that when we talk about this really translucent rose quartz, like we've got this mineral specimen, that is definitely rose quartz, and this is why I've put where I've sourced the image, Arkenstone IROX, okay? So that's very genuine rose quartz. It's transparent, it's got the mixture on it, and that is what we call gem quality. So I would be extremely surprised that if somebody was going to turn gem quality rose quartz into crystals. I just can't see it happening. So I personally think that's probably synthetic. However, going to the central image that we've got here and the rose quartz heart, there's a couple of pointers here that are worth mentioning. Because rose quartz is hardy, it's open to being carved. And when you look at these obelisks, or some people call them towers, you can see, one, there is a range of colours, two, there is a range of transparency with them. And then if you look at the big fatter type obelisk on the left, you're going to see that there is what I call striations. I'm not sure if that's the correct technical term, the white lines that run through it. Now, if there's a lot of those white lines, that's the potential fractures, or the areas of vulnerability, where if you dropped that, there's a chance that it may actually split and break there. But having said that, that doesn't repel me, shall we say, on buying rose quartz, because I actually love the rose quartz and I love to see it. It's kind of like these stripes give it some texture, and it makes it, I don't know, just feel a bit more. But this is all about your personal taste. You might decide that actually, no, you don't want to have a whole heap of striations. The other thing is, take the striations out of it when we're looking at that big fat one. As much as I like striations, I'm not a fan of that colour. And when we're picking our crystals, we tend to go not only to what we're drawn to, but what feels right in our hand. Now, if I was going into a shop, putting this into perspective, I can tell you immediately that I would probably be drawn more to the rose quartz colour of the heart carving, the carved heart, which I don't know what size that is. It could be a palm stone, it could be bigger. But, and I say the big but, the issue here is when we're energy aware, my mind and I might go to a particular crystal, but when I pick them up and hold them in my hand, that big fat one with the on the left hand side with the striations, that actually might be the one that makes my hand buzz. Okay, so if I was to put that in my hand and it started buzzing, I would know that that is the crystal I'm meant to take home. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a tidbit there. So when we talk about a spiritual attunement to love, this is what rose quartz actually assists us with. And I guess to try and explain this, when we spiritually attune to love using the rose quartz, we're attuning to be able to receive love. So rose quartz, I see as, or my interpretation and understanding of rose quartz and its healing properties is one where it opens us up to receiving divine love. And this is because many people struggle to receive. They can give it, that's fine. You know, some people, and you will know them yourself, you will have met people who are extremely loving, kind, emotionally generous, very forgiving to other people, very compassionate, very empathetic. But when it comes to themselves, they are the harshest critics. They have very high expectations of themselves, and they fall short in their own judgments and estimations. Now, when we work with rose quartz and the energy of love, we are extending the same compassion, empathy, understanding, awareness, and forgiveness to ourselves as we do to other people. And what you find is that you start to recognize, you know, actually, I am worthy of love. I am a human being. I'm as worthy as this person down the road that I can be forgiving and understanding towards. I'm as worthy as them of receiving divine love, consideration, understanding. It doesn't mean that we always receive it on a physical level, I might add, because not everybody is consciously aware of this, shall we say, empathy, I guess. Not everybody has empathy towards other people on a physical level because they just don't understand, but you do. Right? So you're loving, kind, forgiving. And this now then becomes a case of opening up and being kind and loving and forgiving to yourself in the knowledge and understanding that actually the Creator loves you. Actually, you can access this divine, loving, warm embrace anytime you want. And by the way, this love energy is a blissful energy. It is just extremely peaceful. Now, from a spiritual perspective, when we can open up to love, this is what we're talking about, being open up to receiving, I've got to say, because there is a difference. There is that opening up to be able to give and demonstrate and show love to other people. That's one aspect of love. And you can, I'll talk about that more with the chakras, but for now, when we talk about rose quartz, we're talking about self-love, self-understanding, awareness. Okay, so love attracts love, and when we open up to receive divine love, then we're able to balance out our own energy fields and basically recognize that that not just do we deserve love, but any of the things that we might judge ourselves harshly about, where we fail to meet our own expectations, is just simply part of our own spiritual growth and expansion. So we're able to become more forgiving of ourselves. We're able to accept ourselves more because we recognize that we also are souls in growth, expansion, and progress, and making mistakes are learning opportunities. And we also learn too to keep that balance of giving and receiving to other people, because if we don't have a healthy balance, then we can neglect ourselves. So when we talk about rose quartz aligning with the divine feminine, I've got some points up here on the slide. We're talking about this capacity to be assertive about our own needs in loving and kind ways, because the divine feminine is that mother aspect. And I would imagine most of us are consciously aware that if mum becomes ill and unwell, then the family tends to struggle as well, because mum has to, or the maternal head of a family, and even the paternal head of a family, has to be able to look after themselves and their own health and their own emotional needs, to be able to give fully to people and not have that love compromised. So it's a case of filling the cup up with love and allowing it to overflow to other people. I just want to clarify here, because I know that people are going to be watching this video. There's a difference between self-love, self-acceptance, and self-adoration and narcissism. Self-love doesn't actually require us to position ourselves as being better than other people, because we're not judging other people and we're not judging ourselves. We're just being true to ourselves and trying to be the best person that we can, and accepting ourselves when we make mistakes, and we just accept it and we go, I'm trying to put this into perspective. So this is me talking. This is my interpretation and understanding. We accept that we make mistakes, but we don't accept that that's where we're stuck. Okay, we accept that we've made a mistake, we can make good of that mistake, and we can do better next time. Okay, but we don't beat ourselves up, or flog ourselves with that judgmental whip, that we're bad and we're a failure because we've made a poor decision. We accept that that is part of our growth, and we accept it as an opportunity to do better next time. So the other aspect of Rose Quartz is that energetically love attracts love, so it is able to bring more love into your life. If you have had childhood issues such as childhood trauma, abuse, or even if you haven't, and as you come into your adulthood and you find that you're neglecting yourself and your own personal needs, it supports you reclaiming that inner child aspect and making a commitment to self-care going forward. And that means having that balance of giving and receiving. It also brings with it this energy and vibration of being able to be assertive, but at the same time being able to emotionally detach. Now, if I was to put that into perspective as the mother and grandmother of adult children, this is a case of being able to exert what my needs might be, and this would be similar for you, but recognizing that everybody's on their own individual path, and just because I have said it doesn't mean that it's going to happen, and that's okay, because their journey is not my journey. Once they've become adults, we have a shared pathway, but even with our adult children, we're not all walking in the same area. So, for example, my children all live interstate and they're pursuing their life path and following their own intuition of what they need to be doing. Now, the other aspect too, and I think this is where being a parent is actually really beneficial for understanding this idea of love and this concept. When we talk about telepathy, it might be different for you, but I certainly found that when it came to telepathic communication, that I started to observe it first within the relationships that I had with people that I held a lot of love for. So I would know if they were wanting me to contact them, or I would be able to send a message telepathically to people that I love, because they're more receptive to my energy, I guess, saying, please call me, things like that. But I think the really, really big thing before I move on to the next slide to talk about when it comes to Rose Quartz is that when we are opening up to love, there becomes this necessity to being open means accepting help when it's offered. Too often people will be givers to other people, but when somebody else offers them help or love or whatever they do, they're like, oh, no, I'm fine, thank you, okay? Well, that is an energetic block, okay, or puts in place an energetic block. So Rose Quartz teaches us to accept and receive as well. So just some thoughts there for you to consider. So just to be clear here, when we talk about physical and emotional and mental health benefits actually of a crystal, you would not disengage from your treating professionals. And also, these are not all of my experience. I can't say categorically that I know of people who have benefited from, say, physical heart ailments through using Rose Quartz. What I can say to you is this is what some people reckon that we should be using Rose Quartz for. I would be interested to hear of people's experiences. Things like nightmares and night terrors, that makes sense to me. I'm being quite honest here, I can accept that it will be beneficial to children within that regard. But when it comes to things like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that, they all have a physical basis within the neurology. So I'm open to hearing if people have used it to treat these conditions, and any of the stories they might have had about any success or non-success. I mean, the other thing is too that I'm not convinced that, I should say I've got to be open-minded. Okay, maybe it does work and cure it. I don't know. But maybe it's more likely that it might actually reduce symptoms. So if somebody had any of those conditions, I would encourage them to give it a shot, to wear it, perhaps as a necklace and things like that. I understand, just so you know, the rationale behind the idea of tissue regeneration and for breast cancer during and after treatment, and that would include surgery. And that's because there is a whole different scenario that I'm aware of when it comes to Reiki and root cause of, I've got that video of what is your body trying to tell you. Well, I understand the backstory for breast cancer and how we can manifest it through what's going on in our lives and our energy field and that kind of thing. But at the same time, once again, I would say, do not disengage from your treating professionals, but wear the crystal, as you go through this experience. Same with the idea of STDs. I'm very interested in that. I am well aware, though. Sorry, I had a cough. I had to have a cough then. And I feel I've had some success with observing women with fertility issues and rose quartz as part of pregnancy. So I can think straight away. And, I've got to be open-minded about this. I've got to say, look, it could have been coincidence. Maybe it's just some strange coincidence that somebody that's been struggling with fertility and looking at taking the IVF route starts using rose quartz and falls pregnant naturally. Okay, so I have heard of things like that. But I would never make claims. Just so you know, the IVF stuff happened very close to home with two members of my family. Two women had problems conceiving, and they were going down that IVF pathway. And I believe both of them tried, well, no, at least one of them got the rose quartz. I don't know about the other one. I can't remember now. But anyway, both went on to have two children without any assistance. So from an emotional perspective and mental perspective, rather than go through all the points and talk about them, I can say, look, I'm quite comfortable in recommending rose quartz for any of these types of conditions, healing the broken heart, healing emotional wounds, the tension and stress and that inner peace. I would say the only ones that I would put a question over, and I ask you for your feedback here as well of your own experiences. When it comes to things like anxiety, so I would see rose quartz as treating tension and stress, but not necessarily anxiety itself. If you've got an anxiety type disorder, there's other crystals that are better for that, because I'm going to be talking about chakras in a moment, but basically anxiety is centered in the higher heart chakra. So rose quartz is not necessarily the best crystal for that, but it probably will be beneficial. As far as depression goes, same deal really, and I will explain why when we get to the chakras stuff, but you may experience benefits from it. I can see also why some people would recommend rose quartz for treating depression, and that's probably because when we talk about emotional healing and heart wounds, rejection can form part of that. If we feel that we've been rejected, whether it's by our family members, our parents, somebody that we've loved deeply that decided we weren't the person for them and moved on, we can experience sadness and sorrow, and grief even, and depression because that relationship didn't go where we wanted it to go. So I can understand why rose quartz would be recommended to treat depression, but I don't think depression is the right name. I think it's about emotional wounding, that it treats emotional wounding, and depression can be an emotional wound. So here we are looking at the chakra slide. Okay, so I'm going to explain this a little bit more about rose quartz, the chakra, and what I was talking about with depression and anxiety. So the first thing is when we talk about anxiety, if you look at this little image that I've got here, you've got that lighter green chakra that is above the heart chakra and between the throat chakra. Now, anybody that has had extreme anxiety or panic attacks knows that they actually feel that in that area there, the higher heart chakra. So rose quartz is more directed at the darker green space. But to be clear, many people are not aware that the heart chakra is both pink and green, okay? And that when we talk about this emerald green color, we're talking about the capacity to give love, right? And the pink is about receiving. So you would trying to think how to put this into perspective. I've put my notes, but I want to make sure I articulate it properly. Okay, so when it comes to love and forgiveness, quite often somebody might hurt us. Let's just, for a scenario, somebody really hurt us, they made us really sad, they broke our heart, and it was unnecessary and unkind and all of that kind of stuff. And we have to forgive them because there's such enormous pain there. Well, the emerald green helps us to forgive them, to accept that they are where they are at their part of the journey today and that they can change and grow whenever they choose, okay? So there is this forgiveness and acceptance of them, not excusing, not justifying bad behavior, just accepting and respecting that they are where they are at today. All right. The pink is about us recognizing we did something perhaps wrong to other people. We could have done things better. There is that release of guilt and being able to forgive ourselves for what we have done. I mean, the idea, obviously, in the birth scenario is if you do feel that you've hurt somebody else, about trying to address that as soon as possible. And that can, depending on the nature of the slide, it could just be saying, look, I'm really sorry about that. But there is this forgiveness of self. Sometimes other people won't forgive you for what they perceive that you've done if you've hurt them. But the point is being able to turn around and say, I did it, and I've tried to make good, and I forgive myself, and I respect that was unwise. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. That's my shadow side. I've got to send light into this. You know what I mean? That's the pink stuff. And let go of this idea of a lack of self-worth. You made a mistake. Okay, you made a mistake, and being able to move on. So that's what the pink and the rose quartz helps us with. Because while we are beating ourselves up and feeling like a bad person and unworthy of love and forgiveness, then we completely block receptivity of love. And this is, if we want to raise our personal vibration and reach our potential, we have to be able to shift past that. Now, the other thing I want to mention too is when we talk about depression, this is why I say I don't know that rose quartz is actually the best crystal to use for depression. And this is because from a chakra perspective, depression is associated with the orange chakra and feeling emotionally unsafe. And when we feel emotionally unsafe, that is when we can become, not everybody's the same, at least emotionally reactive, bursting into tears all the time, at worst, becoming aggressive and volatile, and that can be very harsh. And this orange chakra is associated with the throat chakra. So depression is orange and blue chakra at the throat. And this is because a lot of the time that people that are emotionally reactive, they actually struggle to articulate what it is that they need, their emotional needs. And other times they can be stating their needs very clearly about what they want, but the people around them are refusing to hear what their needs are. But instead of actually making the changes, these people become stuck in this emotional cycle of talking about their problems, not being heard, getting upset because they're not heard, not being listened to, and their needs continue to go unmet. So it just is this big cyclical thing. But before I move on to the next slide, I'm just going to say, look, I welcome your input and thoughts about this as well, and even what your understandings are. And if you would approach it or define it differently to me. But anyway, moving on. So you can use rose quartz in so many different ways. I'm going to explain to you about the bath in a moment, because that one is probably not one that everybody does. A mentor told me about that one years ago, and I do use it. But I think the most popular way that people use rose quartz is actually as a jewelry item or as an ornament in their environment. Certainly meditation and holding any form of crystal, whether it's your crystal heart or whether it's crystal raw ore in your hand. People will do the healing grids and activities. I have I have rose quartz in my environment because I love the tumbles, but I also, because I've got some, did I say tumbles? I meant raw ore. So my bigger type rose quartz I have around the house. Every now and again, I'll wear rose quartz on my person as, just a pendant, turning a tumbled into a pendant on a piece of leather. Some people might put it in a pouch. Other things that you can do is actually, if you want to take on board the properties while you're sleeping, you can put it under your pillow. And of course, people can make healing grids with the rose quartz. People might make elixirs out of it. I'm not really an elixir type person, so if you're into elixirs, you can tell me, feel free to make your comments about what you would do with it, because you will notice on many of my videos that I actually don't refer about elixirs. But what I will do is actually give you a strategy here that I do use rose quartz for, and I talked about it before, which is the bath. And it was given to me as a little strategy. I was under a lot of stress at the time. I had a lot of family dramas as well, and I felt like I was becoming overwhelmed, and I just needed to clear and cleanse my aura regularly. And so I was getting into having a soak in the bath. And anyway, he suggested that, because I was buying some more rose quartz, I said, I think I need some more rose quartz at the moment, as you do. And he said, this chunk, he said, will go well in the bath if you were thinking about that. And I said, well, I could do, couldn't I, as you do? Hadn't thought about it, but now that you mention it. And then we sort of talked about it, he and I, and communed with the guides, if you like, and we decided that it would actually be really good to put the rose quartz with, I had a clear quartz point, and these tolerate water well, by the way, rose quartz and clear quartz. And the clear quartz would actually magnify the properties, of course, of the rose quartz. And then he suggested, because I had some lepidolite, and we decided that because actually a lot of what I was going through, this low self-esteem, was actually a lot of pressure and stress as well. So you're talking crown chakra stuff here. And I needed my brain to be alert as well. So what I did, and I've maintained this now, is I still have a bath from time to time with the rose quartz, the clear quartz, and the lepidolite. But I would be doing you a disservice if I said to you that lepidolite is water tolerant, because as a rule, it's not. The lepidolite that I use is a tumbled stone. It's not the best quality, and I wouldn't recommend people putting in their flaky lepidolite or top quality lepidolite in the bath. But if you're like me and you didn't spend too much on that little tumble, it's not really going to bother you if it reaches its use by date, shall we say. It would just be thank you and go bury it. Now, the other thing too, when I use the rose quartz in that way, I'll often put some essential oils in the bath water as well. Could be some lavender, could be some rose, all part of helping me to both relax and to feel kinder to myself. It's just part of my self-care routine. And I like to have bubbles. I don't know about you. Anyway, if you have got some other ideas on how you can use rose quartz, please do let us know. So as always, I've put a couple of affirmations here for you to draw upon. Of course, that's my wording. I would encourage you to take a look at how you would phrase it. Just remember, you're making a statement to the universe and you are making it in the positive. And if you've got a number of things you want to change, break it down into single sentences or single statements. I am open to receiving and giving unconditional divine love. So you might want to, for example, as you look at the healing properties, and let's say that you're struggling with some of the physical ailments or the emotional ailments, and you want to overcome those as well, you would do more than one affirmation is what I would encourage. And I think I'm just sort of thinking out loud. I think if I was going to be trying to say work with the mind, body, spirit, if I had a physical condition that's related to or where rose quartz is recommended. So let's say I've got multiple sclerosis as a big one. Well, if you're going to go for it, you might as well go big. You would put down, I am open to receiving healing support from the universe for my multiple sclerosis or whatever, or a reduction of symptoms, or recovery, or whatever it is that you're trying to manifest there, and be open, and I choose to be open to receiving whatever the healing energy is. So I'll leave that with you to consider as we move on. So as far as messages of rose quartz, if somebody was to put their hand into my my lucky dip, my crystal lucky dip, when I'm doing a service, I would be reminding them that this is a universal message that their guides are saying to them: love yourself, be kind to yourself, self-care, okay? And choose to be open. Take a look, reflect, are you open to receiving love, or are you telling people that you don't need it? Now, the other big message with rose quartz is, if you want help, if you need help, ask for it, okay? Now, asking for it actually starts by asking the guides. So don't forget to, if there's something in particular that you're struggling with, if you're overwhelmed, ask your guides to help you out. Ask them to fill you with love, peace, and compassion, or whatever, self-compassion, whatever it is that you feel that you need based on the affirmations. And then, of course, say thank you, but to be aware there is a whole load of blessings coming to you under grace in the divine way. So to save time, really, I've got a video up on cleansing your crystals and caring for them. The only thing I would add to that is, with rose quartz, yes, it is sensitive to the Aussie sunlight. In my experience, I haven't seen any birds pinch my rose quartz tumbles at dawn or anything like that, which is I'm very grateful for. As always, I rely on selenite and incense a lot of the time when I'm doing cleansing and recharges. Just the point that if you've got jewelry items and you're looking at cleaning and cleansing them, I think I would be avoiding ultrasonic cleansers, because frankly, I don't feel that they're actually necessary. You can actually clean your jewelry in a glass of soapy water, just not too hot or anything like that. Give it a bit of a wash, a fine toothbrush, soft toothbrush if you need to get into intricate areas, and then rinsing it off with water and drying it with a soft cloth. But as always, because the video is getting long, I will let you guys make your suggestions. If you think there's something I have not covered, by all means, let us know. So, my friends, I am going to call it a day and say thank you very much for being part of my journey. I'm going to send you my love, and hopefully you will receive it with the best of intentions. In the meantime, I'm just going to say, look, have a wonderful break holiday season. Take care of yourselves. I'm going to catch you on the next video. Bye-bye for now.